This is Siobhan Logan reading an extract from my book Desert Moonfire, The Men Who Raced to Space. Imagination was our first rocket, long before hydrazine or heat shields were devised. It lifted us into orbit. Early astronomers moved from observations of the night sky to conjectures about its drifting sparks. And inevitably we began to dream of space travel. The moon, as the first object beyond our skies, became a landmark in that stellar map. For storytellers, it was a hopping-off point to the infinite. And without storytelling, without those fables of impossible skyward journeys, the space race would never have been conceived. So, Desert Moonfire is a collection of poetry and non-fiction that tell the story of two rocketeers from either sides of the Iron Curtain who were closely involved in the race to space, the rocketeers who made it all possible. And that paragraph was exploring the relationship between science fiction, the science fiction of the 19th century particularly, people like Jules Verne and H.G. Wells, and then the space science which was beginning to be pioneered at the beginning of the 20th century. So what I found in my research, and this really appealed to me as a storyteller and a poet, is that science fiction was very much the spark that set everything off. So the stories of Jules Verne and H.G. Wells and many others really caught the imagination, first of all, of a generation of space theorists. So we had Konstantin Tsiolkovsky in Russia, somebody who would go on to develop quite detailed outlines of interplanetary travel via rockets. And then the American Robert H. Goddard, who would experiment with liquid-fueled rockets in the 1920s, and the Austro-Hungarian Hermann Oberth, who was working in the same field. And they would lay down the theories and the ideas for the next generation of rocketeers who would put all of that into practice, first during the Second World War, during the military struggle of that period, and then later on, both Wernher von Braun and Sergei Korolev would be key figures leading the space race for the two superpowers. But the spark for all of that was the stories that they read that seeped into their imagination and made the idea of space travel somehow seem a possibility at a time when the technology and the science had not yet been developed to make this actually a reality. But the idea, the spark was there, coming from the science fiction.